So I'd like to close by saying that, first of all, thank you, and thanks. I'll come back anytime. It's my favorite part of my job. But we have a 2-year budget in Ohio. That budget cycle has already started. So if you hadn't heard, we just elected a new governor who takes over in January. But Governor Kasich has already developed the budget that's going to be introduced probably in early February. We're also in the process of developing what's called a supplemental budget. The Department of Developmental Disabilities got the biggest increase in funding last budget cycle we've received since 1967. It was because we all joined together, but our staff are still so underpaid that they qualify for Medicaid, and we still have 60% turnover. Every 2 years, we all get together and develop a what if there's some extra money budget. We're doing that right now. As you know, the economy's doing pretty well. We think there will be extra money. So we still have money from the current 2-year budget, and we need to ask for more. So the power brokers in the DD system are the county boards of developmental disabilities, the providers by an organization called the Ohio Provider Resource Association, and the ARC. We represent the families. We do better than the Department of Mental Health and Aging because we have a solemn promise that we will not fight inside the State House. We'll fight outside, but when we march on the State House, we do it hand in hand. And we're all kissy and huggy, and we'll do our battles outside. But we have to raise the salaries of our direct care staff. We've got to stop the turnover. So beginning in February, and if you know your legislators now, begin telling them your stories. If you're waiting for these waivers, tell them you need help, and we need it from the state treasury. They don't know. I mean, the guys that need a bridge built so they can get to work are telling their legislators to build the bridge. We don't tend as families to say, and I got a kid with a disability and we need help. And I'm a voter. We are the worthy poor. And you have promised to help us. They don't know because we don't tell them. So begin telling them on a local level. They're going to be home for holiday break. Get together with a couple other parents and invite them to Bob Evans for breakfast. Talk about your families. You don't have to offer solutions. You just have to tell them what your issues are. We'll offer them solutions at Columbus. And then come April or May and June, it takes that long to debate the budget. It would be helpful if you could help us by coming to the State House and testifying. Dave and I will come back, Amy's good at this, to just how to stand up in front of this room and in 3 minutes or less, tell a legislator what you need. And it's a legislative committee. 3 minutes or less, because if you don't, they hold up a sign saying your time's up. You have to be concise. I'm an emotional guy. I've cried in front of these legislators before. That's okay. I grew up in the church and learned how to give testimony in the church. It's exactly the same. You don't necessarily quote scripture, you quote what's going on in your family, and they will listen to you.
You quote your heart.
You quote your heart.
Gary and I often talk, and I think my last testimony, I got to do it. It was 1 a.m. because there were so many people, and we get up there, and they typically give us 3 to 5 minutes, but it's really important that they hear your stories.
And I'll tell you the rest of the story. He said I was doing one of these events, and I was driving. Do you remember? I was driving down to Columbus. I don't know where I was. I was probably in Toledo, and I called him to see if he'd done his testimony, and he hadn't given it yet. Much of what I do is if you need someone to hold I didn't hold his hand. Not at the State House anyway. But if you need someone to hold your hand while you're standing at the podium, we will be there to hold your hand. Take a girlfriend with you, your wife, your husband. It's scary. I mean, there are 7 or 8 legislators in the front. It's in a a building that was built in the 1860s, and you're behind a podium with a gallery of people behind you, and you're standing with a microphone and sometimes a TV camera, and you're talking about your kid to these people, but it's something we've got to do. But you're just as effective at Bob Evans over coffee. But you become part of the public record. The last budget process, the last time we did this, we got more testimony in than they had ever seen. There were people testifying at 2 a.m. And they know that we can do it. When we've had challenges with this governor, I've received calls in the middle of hearings saying, "We know you did this." You know, it was not my fault that the TV station showed up in the local newspapers. We don't.
Somehow they showed up.
Somehow they showed up. We don't have any money, but we've got power. We've got you guys, and you are so important. You've got to speak up. You got to talk about your kid, sometimes in the most unflattering ways, but you know what you go through, and they need to know what you go through. So thanks.
And it's
Thanks.
really worth